Talking hardball, the bull and the better. Talking hardball, part of betting weekly. Handicappers, they're all in the know. Pick some winners and then we say let's go. So come on.
Welcome into a Friday edition of Betting Weekly Hardball. I'm Doug Kezirian alongside professional handicapper Wes Reynolds, and an exciting show we have. Not only do we have Paul Skeens taking the bump in about 18 minutes, but we also have the inimitable Wes Reynolds live in Indianapolis, boots on the ground as he pulls double duty for the baseball show and also Betting Weekly Fast Break ahead of tonight's Game 4 that he is attending and did attend in Game 3. So, Wes, busy stretch of days for you back home in Indiana.
Yeah, good afternoon from the downtown Hilton right here in the Circle City of Indianapolis, Indiana. So, yeah, great atmosphere for Game 3. Expect even more tonight, not only inside the arena, but outside the arena. There's a watch party, and that's going to be packed, and they're selling tickets for that. A lot of stuff going down in downtown Indianapolis, but the main event, of course, game number 4 tonight of the NBA Finals.
You and I will be breaking that down in about an hour from now on Betting Weekly Fast Break, which is 3 p.m. Eastern every single weekday. This is Betting Weekly Hardball, all part of the Bet Rivers Network and under the Betting Weekly umbrella. Just want to remind you to also get involved in the newsletter. Went out this morning, 30-plus pages, great stuff, links to all these shows on the Bet Rivers Network, and a bunch of betting previews for soccer, tennis, really good stuff. And the other shows, especially the tennis shows, have some great breakdowns. Nigel and the crew do a wonderful job. So go sign up for free, bettingweeklystudios.com. In terms of baseball, we had the Rockies with a comeback win yesterday. What does that mean moving forward as we take a look at the weekend? We have some big series, including Yankees, Red Sox, and Dodgers, Giants. So rivalry games on each coast, one in Boston, one in L.A., the Mets have won 6 straight, and we have some interesting matchups, and there's always some props available. We're going to get into it all, but I want to start on the north side of Chicago, nationally televised game, MLB Network, unless you're located in certain cities. And we have Paul Skeens on the bump against Cade Horton going for the Cubbies. An over-under of 6.5. Little juice to the over, $1.21, now $1.22 at Bet Rivers, but it's a pick 'em. Obviously, you have the great pitcher, Skeens, for the Pirates, but the weak offense, and he's on the road, and Cubs at home here. Now, I usually look to bet Skeens or nothing. I think he started out the year in a somewhat, by his standards, of course, average, above average sort of. He wasn't lights out, but then things have gotten a lot better. He has been lights out, and that's where things really interest me. Now, the first 5 money line is interesting because it's minus 141, so significantly skewed compared to minus 110, and that's because you're getting all of Skeens versus Pirates bullpen, and then the home team obviously having a distinct edge in the later innings if it's a low-scoring game, which 6.5 would indicate. How would you play this game, Wes, with Skeens on the bump and all the variables I mentioned?
I'd actually look at the other pitcher instead of Paul Skeens here, and that would be Cade Horton for the Chicago Cubs. Lean a little bit under 15.5 recorded outs. Just he's around a five inning pitcher essentially. I think he has cleared it, by the way, in 3 of the last 4, and we know the Pirates have struggled at the plate a time or two so far this season. But he went 5 last time in Detroit. Went 5 1/3 in an easy win in Washington, and then went 6 against the Rockies. So he's played kind of lower end competition. The only, I think, higher end team was Detroit, where he went 5 innings. And then his first start of the year, he went 4 against the Mets. So I would lean under 15.5 here. I think maybe he goes 5, and that's about all he gets. Pirates, Pirates are the Pirates. And I know Paul Skeens doesn't usually get a ton of run support. Maybe this is the day he finally does. So lean under on the Cade Horton recorded outs.
Yeah, so that was my next question is he's capable of going deeper. His pitch count's usually kept at a peak of 90, low of 77, and he has not faced the Pirates. So the question is, will the Pirates bats knock him around enough? Why Why are you going under? You just think it's a straight value play on the prop versus maybe betting the Pirates first 5 or something like that?
Yeah, a little bit, and a lot of that is just reading between the lines when you're shopping around and looking at different numbers, and some of I think some of the far away places, especially if you look at credit shops, like this is if you have a line screen, of course, and it's heavily juiced a little bit more to the under at those places than it is at maybe some of your more recreational books. So that's part and parcel. Even though the total is getting bet to the under, there's a lot of 6.5s out there. 7 with heavy juice. Bet River 6.5 juice to the over now -122 in terms of the game total. But early afternoon there. Haven't looked at the wind forecast there. I don't know if you have that in front of you, Doug, but I just it seems like this is 5 innings max, and maybe he gets into some jams at some point and doesn't go all that deep. I know that's hard to do with the Pirates necessarily, but 15.5 would under probably about -130 I'm seeing out there in some places.
So it's a lean. I can certainly support that. I don't think the Pirates offense is completely terrible. They had that run of 26 straight games of not scoring more than 4 runs. So 4 runs or less. It tied a major league record with 2 teams that don't exist anymore, like the Philadelphia Spiders or something like that. Just a ridiculous run. But I do think maybe if I were to play anything, I'd play the first 5 under 3.5. I know it's a random number, but when you get Skeens on the bump, and let's just say he gets through the top of the order in the bottom 1, you're starting to think like, man, are they going to score at all? Because if he can he's really, really like when he's locked in, he's locked in. So he's a pretty impressive guy. And like I said, he didn't start out the season lights out, but I think he's found his groove. And that's a guy I would bet in that regard. I mentioned the rivalry games. And not too long ago, Boston was just at Yankee Stadium and won 2 of 3. Now this game's at Fenway. Ryan Yarbrough's going for the New York Yanks, who have been just so clutch and have big wins left and right. It's really been an impressive season when you factor in they lose Garrett Cole and you don't know what to expect. And they have the biggest run differential in all of Major League Baseball, and they are 17 games above 500. They're riding a 3-game win streak, did well in Kansas City. So now you have Garrett Crochet going on the bump for Boston. Now, he got touched up in his last game, gave up 5 earned in the Bronx against the Yankees. He had an ERA under 2. So the nice acquisition from the White Sox comes over. He's been great for the Red Sox, but did get touched up in that game against the Yanks. Occasionally, we do see this, Wes, when you have a pitcher facing a team that just touched him up. Do you have a overarching sort of rule of thumb that you typically do that or is it really just kind of in a vacuum? You can't really use the previous outing against him because, yes, it's the same lineup, but it's a different venue, and maybe it's just a different day and he has different stuff.
I think it's got to be a case-by-case basis here. With somebody like Crochet who has elite stuff, that's somebody that you would expect to bounce back more than I think your average starting pitcher in the league. But the prop's pretty high, 7.5 on the strikeouts for Crochet, and I think even some 8.5s heavily juiced to the under. So that's a stay away for me, especially in a hitter's park like Boston, even though Crochet is certainly used to pitching there now. But it is a hitter's park. You can get some high scoring games there. So that's going to likely keep me out of this one.
Okay. I'm torn here because I think the Yankees lineup is not daunting. It's not like the Dodgers or something like that. So I do think Crochet is going to bounce back and pitch well, but it's $1.50. And the Yanks have sort of proved me wrong a lot. If this were like $1.30, I'm in. I like Yarbrough. That's the other thing. So I would actually look under 8.5, but I feel like this Red Sox team has burned me a little bit this week. So I'm not in a rush to bet them. I had the Rays against them in that game that I thought Giolito would be touched up, and it was 3-1 Red Sox win, went way under the total. And they've been doing enough. So they've won 4 of 5 now. They've won back-to-back series, one at home against the Rays, one in the Bronx. They split against the they went 2 of 3 from the Braves as well. The only one they lost was against the Angels of all teams. So this was a team that was spiraling, and they're back in it. Now they're still 9.5 back and 2 games under 500. But I think that series in the Bronx could have catapulted them, and so far so good. took 2 of 3 at home to the Rays. It's a big series. I like Crochet. I think he's a big game pitcher. I'd consider the first 5 run line. That's what I typically like to do when I think I have a distinct pitching matchup. But I don't love the Red Sox offense. I'm sick of losing money against the Yanks, and it's still a little juicy. So it's a pass for me. The market feels right. It sounds like you have the same read there, Wes.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ryan Yarbrough has been a little bit better because I think a lot of people know Yarbrough from when he was like the opener for the Rays and for the Dodgers. And now, because of the injuries to the Yankees starting pitching staff, especially deep in the rotation, they're having to go with him a little bit more. And I think he's done a solid job. I mean, nothing, to write home about, but just a 4.2 ERA. He's been giving him some distance too. He's not a guy that's like, okay, we're going to have him go 3 or 4 innings. Like he's gone past the 5th in a couple starts. So he's been a solid starter and they've absolutely needed it.
They're reminding me on the YouTube channel, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Amish Farmer says Yarbrough got touched up. Also, it's the same pitching matchup. Yes, I overlooked that. That I know they each faced each other. I forgot that it was the exact same pitching matchup. So good point there. B Germ 78 says I actually like the Yankees team total over 3.5 minus 128. I can't get in front of this Yankees offense. Obviously, they exploded against the Royals a couple times and had performed well. I keep knocking them. I say, well, only Goldschmidt concerns me. And then, of course, Judge. That goes without saying. But they keep getting up clutch hits. I mean, LeMahieu the other day and things like that. So I can't like the under. So I certainly respect where you're coming from. Wes, any interest on the team total for the Yanks?
No, nothing for me in this one. I would expect at least a decent bounce back from Crochet, but that does give you cause for concern when you see that last time out. So I'm going to stay away.
Yeah, I wonder if I'm just curious if this goes over under, giving both pitchers got touched up against the same lineups just in the previous start. So I'm actually just curious. From the betting nerd in me is curious about that. So we go to the other rivalry game I mentioned, Dodgers at home against the Giants. Really interesting matchup. You have Yamamoto going for LA and Logan Webb going for San Francisco. And this is a guy, and by the way, these two teams are separated by 1 game in the NL West. Giants got a taste of their own medicine in the last game. They had 2 late comebacks against the Rockies, and then going for the sweep, they gave up 3 runs in the 9th and blow it. So 3 crazy endings at Coors Field, 2 in favor of San Francisco. But the Giants had won 7 straight. They were on the verge of coming into this game with an 8-game win streak, but the bullpen blows it to the Rockies of all teams, and it was more than a 1-run lead. They gave up a 2-run lead in the bottom of the 9th. Colorado walks it off, so the Giants coming in off a loss. But you're plus 143 if you're San Francisco, and you have Logan Webb, and this is a guy, it's like attached to him like no other. Every time we mention Logan Webb, we mention his splits, home versus road. And Wes, I don't believe you've been on the show when I've asked people this. I brought it up. So I'll remind people, he's got a 1.36 home ERA, an away ERA of nearly 3.95. And this has been the case for several years now. And obviously it's a large sample size, and it's fair to think he's a better pitcher at home. But there's other variables in play. It's not just home and road, and we don't have a placebo effect. So he's facing different lineups, different times. He feels differently that day. Do you put much stock in the home versus road? If I do, it has to be a tangible reason, or it has to be a large sample size like Logan Webb. That the splits are quite distinct over the last few years, not just one season.
Well, I think the splits may play a part in it, certainly for Logan Webb here, but it maybe is just a sell high, just off what we've seen recently. Last 3 starts, he had 10 strikeouts against the Braves, and then he went 8 innings against a very good Padres team. And then the game before against Detroit, even though their bats have cooled off lately, but certainly that record for the Detroit Tigers, 41-22, have been good, and he struck out 10 Tigers. So this seems like maybe even a little bit, as ridiculous as it sounds, with the Dodgers always a big home favorite, almost like a sell high spot on Logan Webb here. So the way I would probably play this is actually lay the Dodgers minus a half a run, and that's first 5 run line, basically, is what that is. Laying a half a run. I'm seeing some -115, I think -120 out there at Bet Rivers, whatever you can get. But I'd lay the half run with the Dodgers in the first 5 because I do think Webb could regress here a little bit, and you've really seen it. He did the start against Detroit. Now he did go 6 innings, but he did give up 7 hits and 3 earned to go along with those 10 strikeouts. So he'll get some strikeouts, but he'll get hit. He got hit up in San Diego at the end of April too. 9 hits, 5 earned. So he has been a little more shaky on the road, and San Francisco is one of the more defined pitchers parks in the league.
What do you make of Yamamoto regressing the other way, right? He's coming off 6 shutout innings on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals, and that came after he got touched up against the Yanks and even a little bit by the Guardians. So I feel like he's back, and he's almost like a buy low spot. So you're saying sell high for Webb. I'm thinking buy low for the Dodgers. This does feel like a good spot for LA.
Yeah, I think it does. And if you look 2 starts ago, that was the 1st of June. He went only 3 2/3 against the Yankees, gave up 7 hits, 4 earned, and walked 3. So that was kind of his bad start, but he's been pretty consistent throughout most of his starts. The majority, I mean, all of them have been quality starts, except for that one dating back to April 11th. But he's a guy that is 220 on the ERA and is 279 on the xFIP. And I often talk about how xFIP I think is more conducive to how a pitcher is pitching. So that would say, okay, maybe a little bit of regression, but 279 on the xFIP is really damn good. And, if you're 3 or less, you are one of the elite pitchers in the game, and you have elite numbers, certainly from the metric standpoint. So, yeah, I think Yamamoto, he's been, take out that Yankee start. He's been pretty darn consistent. They're not really babying him as much anymore because remember Dave Roberts, this was his first year over here last year. They would not let him get deep in the pitch count. It'd be like, okay, 80, 85 pitches. And then, or that was the year before, I should say. And then last year, they kind of started to extend him a little bit more. And this year, they're kind of giving him a little bit more rope to get out of jams. The first sign of trouble when he first came over here to the States, it was like, okay, get him out. Now they don't necessarily have to do that.
Amish Farmer again chiming in and we want you to get involved in the conversation in the comments section. So please join along. He says 5 players in the Dodgers lineup hitting over 300 against Webb, several home runs and extra base hits. And I'd like to add the Dodgers as a team mash righties, which Webb is. So I think it's a good spot. That's the only way I would play this game as well. Still a lean for me, but I'll piggyback the lean, if you will, from good old Wesopedia, as we like to say sometimes, because he's a man full of knowledge, and any sort of knowledge that there is, he will have it in his his big brain, I should say. So a couple other games that caught my eye, and I like talking about Chris Paddack because I feel like in baseball more so nowadays than we did in the past, we have some guys who just never come back down to earth. And I wonder if Chris Paddack is going to be that guy. He's been lights out. I mean, not good, lights out. He got absolutely rocked in his first start this year, 9 earned against one of the worst lineups, the White Sox. And he's been outstanding since. I mean, his ERA on the season is 3.5, but who knows what it would be. I mean, it's like you're looking at like 2.5 the rest of the year. And he's only given up, the most he's given up is 3 earned. So now he's in Houston, and you have a pick'em line here with I lost my place, Colton Gordon on the bump for the Stros. And man, I think this Twins lineup is a good enough, and I just like backing Paddack. I just don't think we're going to see the regression we do because he just keeps proving people wrong who are betting into him. Are you someone, because I know you play contrarian a lot, are you someone who's been betting into Paddack and not getting there?
A little bit. I've kind of been leaving him alone because I think he is due a little bit of regression, because when you look, and another number that I like to look at for pitchers is the BABIP, as I call it, batting average, balls in play. And Paddack at only 237. That is astronomically low. That's one of the lowest of any starters in the league. Meanwhile, you look at Colton Gordon on the other side, teams are hitting 370 against him. So not all that's created equal. Some of that might be, okay, this kid's getting hit hard, but some of it also might be luck, because batting average balls in play is a little bit of luck as well, where it's like, okay, he's not getting good defense behind him. Like maybe Chris Paddack's getting good defense behind him, and Colton Gordon isn't, so sometimes balls find holes, and it's not necessarily, I think, indicative of how a pitcher is pitching. Colton Gordon, last start in Cleveland. Now, this is a kid that's only going to go basically 5 innings, and that's what he's done the last 3 starts. Gave up 7 hits, but only gave up 1 earned. Didn't walk anybody. Doesn't really walk a lot of guys either. So he'll get hit, but he doesn't necessarily walk many guys. Struck out 5 against Cleveland, struck out 6 against Tampa. So I think this guy has done a very solid job so far this year. So he's got a little bit of positive regression. But Market likes the Twins here. Market has come in because the Astros, I think, were about $1.15 overnight. And now you're seeing, at least in some places, where they are the underdogs. Bet River's still pretty even. Houston -112, Minnesota -108. But basically a coin flip game here. So nothing for me on this one.
Where do you stand on the Astros? I had the under. Oh, by the way, I should mention it went 2-1 yesterday, so that was a good little day for me. The only one I lost was a -105, so nearly a full unit win yesterday. And Wes and I together, that we 5-0. I've been 5-0 in the finals. He's 2-0 in game 1, so we've been seeing the ball well. A lot of good juju off each other, and so I'm partial to the Astros because I lost my prop bet. That was -105 because Valdez struck out too many guys, 11 strikeouts, so he didn't get deep into the game, and that's. Sometimes he was too strong, but the game did go under yesterday. Feel like the Astros are kind of starting to get hot. They're not, that doesn't mean they're going to rip off 10 in a row, but usually it happens later in the summer. And I think we're kind of in the middle of it. And they're in first place by 4.5. I think they can make a run here. And that's a team I want to bet on. But again, I'm just a little gun shy against Paddock. But this could be a game once Paddock's out of the game. Maybe I look like what I'm seeing from the Astros in late innings. Do you think Houston, maybe in the futures market, is there value here? I feel like teams have forgotten about him. And a guy like Valdez, I mean, he's an ace right now.
Yeah, probably so. And considering now that they have a 4.5 game lead, because remember, Seattle started out so hot, and now they've hit the skids where they're 2-8 in their last 10. Texas hasn't been hitting really all year, even though they're only 3 games out of 500. And then we've seen this before with the Angels where they might get like a little bit of a run, and then all of a sudden they fade. And I think that even though I think Trout being back in the lineup has at least given them a little bit of confidence, not that, he's hitting for average or maybe posting the same numbers he did certainly when he was healthy a few years back, but I just don't know if anybody's going to really challenge Houston. I almost think they're going to win that West by default right now.
Yeah, I think they're going to win the West. I mean, I kind of suggested that I think that, but I actually think there's value, so to speak. Down the road. I think this is a team that is credible. Like, I think they're a good team. So I like them in the futures market for the AL. I mean, are the Yankees really this good? Are they going to get Max Fried pitching this well and Rodon and everything? I wonder about them to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think that you're going to get some regression at some point out of Max Fried, who's just putting up stupid numbers right now. And it's not that he's not pitching well. It's the fact that I think it's just a little bit above his numbers. So you look for a little bit of regression perhaps in the second half of the season. Like I'm just pulling it up right now. Just 247 on the batting average, balls in play. He's got a 178 ERA, but a 317 on the xFIP. Not that that's bad, but that's certainly almost a 1.5 difference between the ERA. So yeah, Fried and Rodon. Fried 8-1, Rodon 8-4 right now. And the Yankees also got to incorporate, some guys, some starters they get back because they're having to roll out, Yarborough like they're having to do tonight and roll out Will Warren, even though Will Warren has been really solid from a strikeout standpoint. But, yeah, I think you are going to get a little regression, at least out of those top 2 starters.
And the Tigers, look, they're not going away, but I don't know if I'm too intimidated. The Astros, it's a big jump after the top 2 favorites in the American League at Bet River. So you almost have co-favorites in the AL and the Astros at +$8 and their fellow competitor in the AL West, Mariners at +850. I think the Astros are a team, and we've seen them add an arm or a player at the break. Or at the trade deadline. So that's something that could clearly happen as well. First 2 guys get out at Wrigley Field, but then Brian Reynolds gets a double down the line. So we have a runner in scoring position for the Pirates, top of the first, 2 outs, 1 in scoring position, and we'll keep you posted as Horton try to get out of this mini pinch, and we'll have an updated line if it does go to between the half innings. We'll keep it moving. Another game that caught my eye. I mean, there's a lot of games that, you don't have to watch necessarily that aren't the biggest games, but there are some intriguing games. And I know you've touched on Gossman in the past. So Gossman and the Blue Jays visiting the Phillies, both teams around 9 or 8 games above 500. So I think the Blue Jays have been a pleasant surprise. This is a coin flip game, if you will. And with Ranger Suarez going on the bump and the home team, I think it's kind of a cheap price for Philly, all things considered, even though Toronto's been a nice surprise this year and things along those lines.
I want to play on Gausman without necessarily playing the money line or the run line traditional way. So I would probably have to look at more toward the prop market, the under 2.5 runs. Now, he has not been as dominant on the road as he really was last season, but you've got a Phillies team without Harper in the lineup. So it's not like they're exactly mashing right now. They got in the Cubs series, they did get to Colin Ray and Ben Brown, but I just, they've been really aggressive lately, the Phillies. The high swing rate over the last 2 weeks, I think second highest in the league. So that works for Gausman. Gausman had that great outing at Texas where he went like 8 innings and only threw, I think, like 80 pitches. And then, almost got out of the 6. And then the Twins touched him up for a late home run. So didn't quite get there in the end. But I think Philadelphia, they're going to swing at some bad pitches at this point because they've been super aggressive, feeling like they have to be without Bryce in the lineup. And look, we know Bryce will take his walks too. He'll strike out a fair share, but he'll take his walks. But yeah, I just thought that price was a little much there. So Kevin Gausman under 2.5 earned runs for me in that one.
Okay, so you think he's going to handle this Phillies lineup, all things considered? I like Suarez and what I've seen from him. I mean, the last 4 starts, he's combined allowed only 3 earned. And not all of it's been, I mean, look, he handled the Brewers, handled the Braves, who've been all of a sudden starting to hit well. Gosh, it's tempting to get involved with the Phillies here. I think it could be a good spot. I have not been a Gausman guy. I don't think he's that great necessarily. And I feel like he's a guy you back more often than you don't. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair because I don't think, he's able to get out of jams for the most part. He doesn't really walk a ton of guys. And I think, he's been a little bit better on the road historically, or at least since he's been in Toronto. Now this year it's been the reverse where he's been a little bit better at home, but this is not a guy that gives up a lot of walks, really, only 2 per 9 innings. So basically it's like 1.25 per start that he's given up. So he doesn't give a lot of free passes. And I think knows how to get out of jams too. Like when he knows he needs a double play, he's able to get that ground ball a lot of the time. So yeah, he's a guy I think that knows how to pitch and has not really been extended in a lot of those starts where it's like, okay, he's got to go 105, 110. Like we saw a few of those starts last year.
So let's get to one of the games I mentioned with some trends to discuss. We'll get to the Rockies momentarily, but New York Mets have won 6 straight. They're at home hosting the Tampa Bay Rays. And with Adam the Bull earlier in the week, it was Rays are one of those teams that they don't have a bunch of big bats or scary bats or big names, I should say, but they are solid across the board. Mets are decent sized favorites here, $1.77. So on the overnight line, it's been bet up a little bit, over under of 8 out there in Queens. And Clayton Holmes, been a nice pitcher for New York. He's only given up 4 earned in 2 starts all year. Otherwise, he's pitched very well. An ERA under 3. I'm not the biggest Taj Bradley guy, but he's been fine at times, but he can also get rocked. And this Mets lineup has been raking. So I like them in the run line, but I don't want to have a minus price on a run line that has a game that's not that big of a total. I mean, I guess they're saying it's a 5-3 final in a lot of ways, but I just feel laying 1.5 and minus 123, not something I want to do, but I also don't want to lay the $1.77 on the straight money line.
Yeah, if I were to do anything here, I guess the thing that stood out to me is maybe Clay Holmes under hits allowed. Tampa, they don't have the big names, but they can hit a little bit at home, and that's proven to be really a hitter's park down there in that George Steinbrenner field in Tampa. Of course, not playing in the Trop this year, but yeah, if I were to look at this, I think looking under. on the hits allowed for Clay Holmes, which is 4.5, I believe. I think it's like minus $1.05, minus $1.10. I'm just giving the market average here, just trying to eyeball this very quickly. But that would be where I would look here. I think he's been good, and maybe a slight regression at 360 at the xFIP, considering he's 295 in the ERA. But I just don't know if the Rays are necessarily the ones to take advantage of this.
Interesting, because I think they're a team that's very balanced and could, in a lot of ways, sort of get to him. There's death by 1,000 paper cuts. That's what the Rays lineup kind of strikes me as. There's no real gigantic weak holes. I feel like this is a team that could sort of get some 2-out hits and things like that, but nothing damaging. The Mets had a big comeback in game 1 against the Nats, and then they carried that over, shut out the Nats the next day, had some good momentum yesterday. I think there's just a real momentum here with the Mets. When you have a team that's won 6 straight, Wes, how do you handicap them? Do you care that they've won 6 straight? Do you think there's a bounce in the step of the players, or are you just straight sort of isolated game by game vacuum?
Yeah, I still go with the pitching matchup, and that's the first thing I start with, and isolate it on a game by game. I'm not a big streak better. I think that can be dangerous. That can be dangerous to get in front of it, or it could be dangerous to be too late to the party. So I think if you're doing that, and I know a lot of people like to do the trends and like to do the streaks, but I find that doesn't work for me. So you got to stick with what works for you, and that's looking at the pitching matchup. Like with the Clay Holmes tonight, it's kind of a little bit of a buy low, because even though he did get the victory, he gave up 9 hits in Colorado in his last start against a Colorado team that's obviously the worst in baseball with their current record. So that's why I'm looking to go under here. I think maybe regress to more positive form against Tampa Bay tonight.
You mentioned Colorado. You are a professional with the mic, because we are switching to the Rockies game. Colorado, dramatic win, I mentioned, come back from down 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th, avoid the sweep at home at the hands of the Giants. Now they go to Atlanta. Shockingly, big underdogs on the road here. Braves minus 360, over under 8.5. So it's a beefy money line, but Bryce Elder's been really solid for Atlanta, and you have Marquez going for Colorado, and he's nothing to write home about, but he's not a complete gas can. I think he's one of their better pitchers. Freeland's been pitching a little better lately. Sensatello is even okay, but I think German Marquez is probably their best or second best starter, and I like Elder a lot. I think the Braves bats are starting to heat up a little bit. And that's encouraging, because guys like Matt Olson have just been a head-scratching performance, but they're starting to play better. They won 2 of 3 in Milwaukee after losing 7 straight. And Acuna did go yard recently. Maybe his bat's heating up. I'd look at the Braves' first 5 run line, just because I like beating up on the Rockies. I'm not going to put too much stock in their comeback win and think it carries over. So first 5, I'd look at the Braves minus $2 on the run line, but you can go first 3 minus 134, and they obviously have a top of the lineup that's scary. That's the only way I could play it. I can't lay the 360.
Yeah, and I'm still not convinced to really back the Braves much at all. I was thought that they were going to turn around, and now you see them 29 and 38, or excuse me, their current record 29 and 38. Maybe they're not going to turn it around, because sometimes maybe as bettors we can be stubborn and we think, okay, they got Acuna back, so now here they come. They're going to turn it around, but I've almost given up. That was a bad series in San Francisco where they blew, I think, saves on back-to-back days where they had leads. So if I were to play this, I don't really want to play the Rockies. They're a team. I'm not like the betting bully. I know that's more your style, but I've been staying away from a lot of their games because they're tough to back. So I'm not going to back them here, but maybe I would back German Marquez under 3.5 earned runs. Here, which usually a lot of the average starting pitchers, you're going to see 2.5 earned runs. Now, if Skubal or somebody elite, it's going to be 1.5. But because this is the Rockies, 3.5, and Rockies, some sharp bettors are still backing them. They're not always getting rewarded, but I guess you got to be right. Once every three or 4 days to make a profit if you're doing that with the Rockies on these big prices. But under 3.5 recorded outs at plus 104, I believe, right now at Bet Rivers. So plus money on that, and the total is getting bet to the under. By the way, it was 9 in the overnight. Now you're seeing pretty much 8.5 market wide. So maybe that's telling you a little bit of something. So that's the way I would play it. Marquez here under 3.5 recorded or earned runs rather.
So an uneventful first inning based on the scoreboard. So scoreless first. The live total at Wrigley Field now 5.5. Wes, how about that? A Nerfy cashes and a full run is taken off the 6.5. And the large reason for that, or part of the reason I should say, Ian Happ leadoff single for the Cubbies, but then Skeens gets the next 3 batters in a row, including 2 strikeouts, and he ends the inning striking out Pete Crow Armstrong. And so you're through the bulk of the lineup for the Cubbies, and you still have Skeens, and then the Pirates had a double, so they're through their first 4 batters. So the next 2 innings should be bagels, and that's, I think, why the over-under dropped. Can I interest you at all in an under 5.5 minus 112 live bet?
I'm gonna pass on that. I know you're getting to the bottom of the order, but it depends on how quickly they work. Like Skeens did have 18 pitches in the first inning, so if he keeps that average, then he's barely going to go over 5, even though they will give him a little more rope. Whereas Horton, I don't think that they're going to give much rope. He had 17 in the first. It's still about priced where it was. Maybe I think he's a slight favorite to the over now, but did give up a hit. So 17 pitches, that makes it 85 if that's the average. And if he gets just like 120 pitch inning, that throws the whole thing off. So I'll leave that one alone.
First 3 innings, you can go under 1.5 minus 215. So I like that the most. I'm actually going to play official play here for anyone watching along. I'm going to go under 1.5 runs for the first 3 innings minus 215. I think that is, to me, that has value with where they are in the lineup and who the lineups are and who's pitching, obviously. Any interest there? Any comments there? The 215 is no fun, but obviously a half run matters so much in this situation.
Yeah, nothing for me because I did go ahead and place that bet on Horton pregame under 15.5 recorded out. So nothing for me. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have much faith in this lineup for the Pirates, and if they, they're not good, and that's kind of how I see things. And I think Horton can settle down, and the Pirates might have some threatening here and there, like they did a 2-out double. But ultimately, this Pirates offense doesn't do a whole lot for me as well. So we'll continue to monitor that. I mentioned the Tigers in the futures market for the American League. They're opening up a series at home against Cincinnati. Herder going for them. Martinez going for the Reds. This Cincy team, I've mentioned it a couple times. They're fine. They're above 500. They're okay. Abbott pitches. They're excellent because he's excellent. And Tigers slight home favorites here, minus $130 range. And they're a team I think are going to be here to stay. So I agree with the market in that they're priced accordingly because they have a monster, lead in their division. They've been a monster, and they have Skubal, who was excellent yesterday and was way too cheap on the run line and every which way. Should have betted. I'm mad at myself. But Skubal's fantastic, and their offense isn't going anywhere. But this Reds team's not a complete doormat either.
Yeah, Tigers bats, even though they're still winning games, not great really in the last couple weeks. Tough spot for them. They had the getaway game in Baltimore yesterday. So now going to getting Cincinnati. Up there in Tiger Stadium. I say Tiger Stadium, I mean Comerica Park. Nick Martinez, a couple starts ago did have a bad outing against the Cubs, but over his last 9 starts, 2.82 ERA, 3.15 fielding independent in 54 innings of work. Reds are a volatile offense. Sometimes they knock the crap out of the ball, and sometimes they can't hit anything. And you look last 2 games in Cleveland against Slate Ciccone and Logan Allen, only got 3 runs in those 2 games, and now you're getting another one here with a Herder. So that's going to be an opener, I believe for the Tigers. So if I were to play this one, I would probably say maybe under first five.
Okay.
Under 4.5 minus, I believe it's 129 at Bet Rivers. That's actually the highest in the market. That would probably be where I would look here, because I just think that the Tigers bats have not got going. Martinez, I think, has been a lot better than his last starts would certainly indicate. And Cincinnati, with the volatility in the offense, they could put a lot of zeros up there on that board instead of crooked numbers. So first five under for me.
Okay. And they've gone through another half inning on the north side of Chicago. Horton now 27 pitches as he goes 3 up, 3 down. And we are now headed to the bottom of the second. Skeens headed back to the bump. Just for reference purposes, so people fully understand how the live market works. First 3, because sometimes they'll take it down after the first pitch of the bottom of the second. Under 1.5 is now minus 3 at 45. So it just went from 215 to 345 because the Pirates batters 5, 6, and 7 went out. So that's what I just didn't bank on them doing anything in the bottom of the lineup. And we got minus 215, and now it's minus 345. So that's why I liked it so much, because the market will swing drastically. And if you like how Horton looked, he only gave up a 2-run double down the line. It could have been a foul ball very easily, right? So they weren't knocking him around, and he wasn't lining out to the hot corner and things like that. So I think Skeens settled down after the leadoff hit to Happ, got the big bats, 2 strikeouts. I think he'll be fine. And as Wes mentioned, the pitch count's getting up there, so I don't want to do a game over under. I want to do where I'm definitely getting Skeens in the entire region of the over under. So hopefully that pans out accordingly. But that's going to do it for this show. So just that live bet I have, no official plays. You have the Horton when you're sweating out that you wagered. Market felt pretty tight today, but maybe somebody tailed me on the under, and we're in a good position at least. Nothing's guaranteed, of course, but at least we're in a good position for that. So Wes, appreciate the insight. We're going to be connecting in about 15 minutes from now. Top of the hour, Betting Weekly Fast Break, as we break down Game 4 of the NBA Finals. The entire show has been red hot, both in the NBA and the W. We have a big card tonight and into the weekend in the WNBA, so we're going to break all that down, try to stay hot. Wes is in Indianapolis. We're going to get his reaction as he was at Game 3, and he's there in the Circle City ahead of tonight's Game 4. So we'll break that down across the board at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. But we appreciate everyone tuning in for this edition of Betting Weekly Hardball. We'll be back on Monday. For Wes Reynolds and everyone behind the scenes, all the producers, directors, researchers that make everything look good and do all the heavy lifting, we'll see you back here on Monday. Good luck this weekend.